It's Championship Sunday at the USA Ultimate US Open Championships here in Minnesota. But before we get to the finals, one more semifinal to bring you in the women's division. It's Denver Molly Brown, the 3 seed, and Boston Brute Squad, the 2 seed. On the other side of the bracket, going on concurrently, the 5th seed Scandal and the top seed and reigning national champion San Francisco Fury. 7 p.m. tonight on ESPN 2, the women's final here at the US Open. Good morning, everybody. Great to be back with you. Ian Toner and Evan Lepler along for the ride. And Boston Brute Squad has clearly established themselves as a national power. Denver Molly Brown, they're clearly in that top tier, but they're still looking for that marquee tournament win to really reach that highest echelon.
That's right. The Boston Brute Squad team has ended Molly Brown's season each of the last 3 years in the national semifinals. It's become something of a proverbial monkey on Molly Brown's back. Today is a huge opportunity to set the tone for the rest of this season and change their course and trajectory heading into the stretch run.
These are the 2 third-place finishers from the World Championships. They'll both get bronze medals because there wasn't time to play a bronze medal game. And to give Molly Brown credit, they have made incremental strides every season. In your mind, what is the next step, and how involved does Chastain have to be in taking that next step?
Well, this unquestioned MVP of this team is going to have to lead the team with the appropriate pace, patience, and decision-making to guide their offense to that next level. They're still in search of that complete game performance, and her offensive dynamism and handling skills and defense can be a key part of that success.
A lot of people feel she's the most talented player in the sport. Some question her discipline. We'll see if she can harness it to bring Molly Brown the best she's got. Boston Brute Squad, the 2-time national champs. They lost a heartbreaker by 1 to Fury in Sarasota last year. They brought back almost all their pieces, including Cammie Groom. Zoom, Cammie Groom. She's still getting D's pretty much every game she plays.
Well, you know she's going to be a force downfield for this squad, whether she's matching up with a cutter and knocking them out of the pitch, or if she's going to be charging deep in those deep lanes after the turnover. She's going to be someone churning and gaining those yards when the team needs them most.
She'll probably match up with Chastain a bit today for the Boston Brute Squad D-line. Winner of this game in the finals tonight on national TV, ESPN 2, 7 o'clock Eastern. They both want to be under the lights with a huge crowd. Only one's going to make it. Molly Brown and Brute Squad to kick off a quadruple header of Ultimate from the US Open. The USA Ultimate US Open Club Championships are presented by Spin Ultimate, providing custom team uniforms and ultimate apparel since 2007. Visit Spin Ultimate on the web at spinultimate.com. And by Discraft, the official disc of USA Ultimate, now available at Midwest Meyer stores and over 2,000 retailers nationwide. Under sunny skies, Denver Molly Brown set to take the field. Manuela Cardenas just turned 19, one of the stars of Colombia's Revolution, joining Molly Brown for the 2nd season in a row. The veteran Chelsea Tuig, a Molly Brown rookie, despite the fact that those top 2 players are the youngest and oldest on the team, respectively. Dixon, another rookie, joining that Molly Brown starting 7. For Boston Brute Squad, Leanne Hoffman, the established star, Becky Malinowski, the downfield striker, Jessie Grignon-Thomas, perhaps the biggest addition to Brute Squad this year. Team Canada World Games player coming down from Montreal and has been a stabilizing force for Ariel Jackson's offense. Well, a few days ago, the forecast was ominous, but so far so good, and we knock on wood that the thunderstorms stay away. There are some possible storms in the picture for later today, but we were told that yesterday was going to be a washout, and it didn't turn out too bad at all. No delays. Hopefully that continues under sunny 78-degree skies. Feels a little warmer than that here in Minnesota. Certainly the warmest morning of the weekend here in the North Star State.
It's probably just because we're marinating up here in the booth with the sun coming down on us, coming through the glass.
There's Manuela.
That's coloring our perception.
No question about it. There's Manuela, just turned 19. She and her sister, her twin sister, Valeria, both here at the US Open. Valeria playing with a Colombian mixed team. And good to see some of the ICC fans in attendance. You know the Boston girls would want to watch some of their idols. Brute Squad's in white on offense. Molly Brown won the toss, elected to start on D. And Claudia Tajima shoots deep immediately for Leanne Hoffman, and that is a 2-throw score for Boston Brute Squad in about 10 seconds.
Can't draw it up much better than that. Centering pass. You see Hoffman expressing her gratitude for how beautiful that throw was. And a little shorter pull, probably impacted by the wind. Centers to Tajima. And a nice deep shot out to space. I'll take Leanne Hoffman in a foot race against just about anyone in this division.
And she's certainly in the running for that conversation. Leanne on that USA World Games team. That 1 gold in Wrocław, Poland. Well, Boston Brute Squad, perfect through pool play. I think anyone would agree that they had the easier of the 2 pools, but it does give them the more difficult semifinal game. I think the conversation in the women's division right now, Ian, there's a clear top 4 with Brute Squad, Molly Brown, Fury, and the reigning world champion Seattle Riot, who are not here at the US Open. Gives DC Scandal a chance in the semifinals after they knocked off Ozone to earn the right to play Fury. I think Fury's a heavy favorite in that game, but we saw a heavy favorite from the Bay Area go down yesterday, so you never know. Here's Lisa Pitt-Caithley, the former Bay Area player. At a college ultimate in California. Claire Chastain, marked by Angela Zhu on the opening 0 point for Molly Brown, and that'll work. Paige Applegate to Liza Minor. A couple turnover-free holds to start.
Well, that's clean, pretty offense from Molly Brown. Exactly the way they want to start this game. And you saw the experience and confidence of Paige Applegate and Claire Chastain on display there. Chastain breaking the mark once or twice, and Applegate doing so as well with that finishing strike into the end zone, capitalizing on those small break windows to finish the point.
Over the course of a tournament, Ian, you and I talk about a lot of things on the sideline, and one thing that you mentioned I want to bring up here is you're really high on Liza Minor and what she's brought to this Molly Brown team.
Yeah, I think the Colorado Ultimate scene, Molly Brown in particular, has experienced a lot of growth, a lot of change in the last several years. There have been a lot of transplants, a lot of great new pieces of talent coming to the area. And I think Liza Minor is, a big name, having competed and represented Team USA at beach championships and those types of events. And I think sometimes her name gets kind of lost in the shuffle of all these great players that have come to represent Molly Brown. And she's such a dynamic downfield force for opposing defenses to deal with that, sometimes the headlines miss her for the Lisa Pitt-Caithleys and the Claire Chastains of the world.
Alesha Dixon on that pole. We saw her with Amp at the World Championships after she played with Philly Amp for a long time in the mixed division, relocating out to the Rocky Mountain area and joining Molly Brown. Here's Amber Sinacrope, Brute Squad's longest tenured player by a long shot. Malinowski uses her height and length to keep possession alive for Brute.
Well, that was great recognition by Alesha Dixon there. She moved around to stop that around behind dump to Tajima, which would have opened up a breakthrough.
Grigno Thomas to Sinacrope on the goal line, not in yet. JoJo Emerson back to Sinacrope, breaking the mark, and the bid and the score. It's Alana Schwamm for Brute Squad, 2-1 Boston.
Well, a few resets that certainly raised the heart rate of Brute Squad fans everywhere on that point, but Becky Malinowski, Schwamm, others able to save possession even when throws were off the mark and able to fight through the challenges that the switching Molly Brown defenders were posing throughout that point.
You don't see a ton of layout clap catches, but well done by Schwam.
Yeah, because I think that's a recipe for a turnover. It's so easy for that bottom elbow when it hits the ground to just completely jar your hand loose from the bottom of the disc.
Amber Sinnerkrop in her 13th year on Brute Squad. You may think, oh, she's obviously in her 30s. She's not. She's just 29. She joined Brute Squad as a 16-year-old. Vicky Negus is the other longest tenured member of the team in her 8th season. So Sinnerkrop has nearly lapped the field in terms of Brute Squad experience.
And starts now. Grinch starts now. Grinch, let's go. Go get
Tulsa
it,
Douglas, the D3 national champ from St. Olaf College, which is just around the road from Blaine, Minnesota. Chastain's throw is too low, and it's the first turnover of the game intended for Megan Ives. Angela Zhu to Douglas, and her throw low but hovered, kept alive by Chelsea Murphy. And now here's Cammie Groom in the red zone. Looking up the line, well done by the Boston D-line. 3-1 Brute Squad, and this is what we've come to see from Brute Squad. They get turns and then they punish you for your mistakes.
Absolutely clinical after the turnover. It looked like Ives had a shot at digging that out, but it was a low throw. And then as soon as the disc is brought in by Zhu, they waste absolutely no time swinging the disc across the field, changing that point of attack, and relentlessly breaking the mark down the field, ultimately capitalizing on that goal throw to the break side from Groom to Lee.
Caitlin Lee in her second year on Brute has been a tremendous goal scorer, still a star at Dartmouth College, winner of the last 2 college titles. And Cammie Groom, she's considered one of the best women's ultimate players, and that's despite the fact that some people critique her throwing abilities. That was an authoritative looking backhand up that sideline to the perfect spot.
Yeah, no hesitation. As soon as she saw Lee there, it was a quick step out, an aggressive pivot to that break side. Great release. And you think about the other receivers and downfield threats and downfield defenders in the division over the last few years who faced that critique. Someone else who comes to mind is a Sandy Jorgenson, who used to contribute to Scandal for some time and now is going to be competing in the mixed division with Space Heater. And I think Cammie is someone who's got more polish and well-rounded throwing ability than someone like Sandy.
I think that's fair. Claire Chastain with a big backhand fake. Angela Zhu certainly very bouncy on the mark. Good swing to the sideline for Minor. And here's Pitcaithley, marked by O'Connell. Up the line and into the ground, past the bidding Applegate. Brute Squad with basically a completely different D-line this point than they had last point. One of the reasons they've been so strong. Cammie Groom, one of the few that stays on. Out there with Shelley Cohen, Angela Zhu, Juliana Werfele, Sophia Hulbert downfield, Nicole Canning. Here's Groom's flick, and she's got back-to-back assists on the D-line for Brute Squad. And Molly Brown might need to take a timeout.
So that's such a tight window. Great dump defense there on Applegate, making that upline throw really tight. Pitcaithley had to hit that perfectly, and she couldn't quite execute. And then Cammie Groom is wasting no time, leading this offense after turnovers, earning yardage downfield, and then shooting to the end zone.
One thing about Groom, she is a fierce competitor, comes from a family of athletes. She likes to say that she's the worst athlete in her family, which says a lot about the type of athleticism she's grown up around. And she may not not have enjoyed hearing the critique that, oh, you're a great player, but your throws aren't up to par. I think she's made a statement early in this game and really the past few months and couple years and really focusing on improving that aspect of her game.
Yeah, and you can't help but think that her experience last summer with the World Games team may have had something to do with that, could have been a strong motivator. She was rightly selected for the squad, but not selected for the traveling team to make it to Wrocław. And, you know, there are so many combinations that you could have put together for that Team USA roster that would have ultimately been a great competitive team that could have won gold, but
it's fun to debate. Debates will continue even though we're a year beyond the tournament. Cammie's sister Shay plays professional women's soccer. And last night, I'm not big on Instagram, Ian, I think you know, but I was opening Instagram and the recommended video for me to watch was Cammie Groom scoring a goal in what looked like a Dick's Sporting Goods or a Meyer Sporting Goods store and celebrating the goal. And basically the caption was, Shay, look out, got another star soccer player in the family.
High quality content from that Brute Squad Instagram.
Lizzie Laurie to Liza Minor and the reset to Jessie Schaffner. And now Pitcaithley. And there's a pick downfield.
And there's something to notice. Manuela Cardenas, her second year on the team. Last year, she was more of a defensive specialist. Obviously, we know she's a very well-rounded player, but she's getting some O reps here. And that's something that one of the coaches, Carolyn Matthews, said we could expect to see more and more of as the season goes on.
Schaffner tried to squeeze it to Chastain through the tight space, and just a difficult throw to execute. Brute Squad with a third break opportunity. Tulsa Douglas looking for Caitlin O'Connell. And it's incomplete for the first time. Brute Squad throws it away.
The first break conversion that Brute Squad has missed this game. But again, you get a sense of how clinical and aggressive and precise they are on the turnover. Yes, they didn't connect on that huck, but they're attacking the break side and shooting on those break opportunities when they're open.
That's how the wind bounced that disc a little bit. Minor gets it to Cardenas. Megan Ives to Jessie Schaffner. Chastain being chased by Chelsea Murphy. And here's Laurie. Cardenas, few yards shy of the goal line. There's a poach, so somebody's open. It's Schaffner. And Molly Brown capitalizes on the double team.
Well, that's great recognition and patience by Manuela Cardenas, recognizing that a couple extra defenders had peeled off to protect that front cone and stop Chastain's strike cut. Things started off here, Chastain to Laurie. Laurie's going to continue to Cardenas, and there's going to be a big traffic jam at that front corner, and Cardenas with the presence of mind to throw a pump fake, reset, dump swing on the goal line. That is fundamental offense that all of the YCC players watching in person or from afar can learn from and implement on their own teams.
This may be a silly question, and feel free to tell me it is. Was that Molly Brown's universe point O-line right there?
I don't think it's a silly question. I don't think it was their universe O-line. I think there were a few other defenders that might cross over. I would think a Becca Miller would be in the conversation to be crossing over there.
Felt like a really important point when we saw Schaffner and Cardenas on offense. Molly Brown dropped their pool play game to Fury, a game where they were missing a few of their key players. A 15-11 was the score against Fury, but closest other game was against Boston Siege. They took care of Nightlock 15-4. Synchrope marked by Dina Slattery, connecting with Grignon Thomas, stumbling, guarded by Cardenas. Here's Tajima. It's the type of cut Leanne Hoffman is good for several times a game. Just a wide open 25-yard under, gaining clumps of yards at a time. Malinowski can do that too. Stall count rising, and that disc hit the ground, but a foul was called on the throw. Dixon on the mark of Malinowski.
Goodness, that was close. Dixon was anticipating that kind of barbecue release.
Synchrope. Karate kick on the mark from Slattery. This throw is high, and it is ripped away by Grignon Thomas. And Molly Brown thinks an offensive foul was involved.
I think we had an offensive foul called at the throw.
Here we go, Becca.
Contested.
Yes, Blue. Here we go, Mom. That's great. Yes,
Becca Miller, whom we just mentioned, makes the call.
Going back to Synchrope.
And I think Becca Miller is claiming that
Selling 6.
Grignon Thomas might have extended a forearm into her shoulder to kind of elevate her and prevent Becca Miller from making a play on the disc.
Synchrope to Hoffman.
And that's another fundamental red zone, end zone set that a lot of teams like to run. You set the dump up somewhat on the fore side, and then you throw that dump pass just behind the current thrower, but a step or two onto that break side. So there's going to be a split second before the mark is able to catch up and seal and hold that force. And that window into the break side is all that Synchrope needs to shoot into the end zone for Hoffman.
Well, Leanne Hoffman, of course, grew up in Colorado. And about 10 years ago, she was a YCC player for Colorado Cutthroat, teammates with Lizzie Laurie, who's playing for Molly Brown right now. The coach of that team is Carolyn Matthews, former Molly Brown standout, who's now coaching the Denver women's team here in Blaine, Minnesota. I asked Carolyn, was Leanne a dominant player back then? And she said, yeah, she was really, really good. Sarah Davis from Riot was also on that team. And it's a bit of a Colorado Cutthroat reunion. And it's stories like this that make it so cool to have the YCC tournament here with the U.S. Open in the adult club division.
And another former Molly Brown standout, now coaching Colorado Cutthroat, Lindsey Cross this weekend.
Yeah, that's a great point. Claire Chastain sliding for the under. Slings it forward. It's out of the reach of Lizzie Laurie. Speaking of.
And I think Laurie had the underneath separation. I think that throw was just a tiny bit off the mark. She did have her defender sealed on her back hip.
There have not been a ton of mistakes in this game so far. And there's Brute Squad second.
Body up, hands, yeah.
6 total turns in the game. Here in the 8th point of the game.
Yes, hands, that's fine. That's fine, hands.
Pig
Yes,
Caithley.
Cassie Wood.
And there's Chastain off the hands of Bacher in the end zone. That's 2 throws from Chastain that both landed incomplete off the hands of a laying out teammate on this point.
Yep, all day.
And I wonder if she was looking at Bacher or if she saw Minor coming from the back of the stack there.
Here's Cassie Wong. And she overthrows Cammie Groom. Liza Minor wastes no time. Launching deep. And that's just out of the reach of Liz Kolopek.
That's just, you're right there. You got to make that play. You can leave your feet and bid. She could have even done a baseball slide, I think, and made up some ground and gotten under that. To stay on your feet and not make that extra effort to get there, a game like this, you got to see something else.
Saw yesterday, one turnover could be the difference. Kolopek has really taken Molly Brown by storm in her first season with the team. That deep shot connects with Nicole Canning, a rookie on Brute Squad.
Be ready, Lizzie. Yeah, clear.
Groom resets for Zoo.
Far side.
And here's Canning on the other side of the field.
Oh, and Cassie Wong was open to the far side cone. And
she was still open even 5 seconds after you saw her the first time. Beating Minor to the spot. That's a Brute Squad break. Their third of the half, and it's 6-2. And literally 3 chances, either near the goal line or in the end zone, for Molly Brown to bring in that score, and it's a 2-goal swing. Should have been 5-3, instead 6-2.
And credit to Boston Brute Squad for punishing and working efficiently after the turnovers, but at the same time, Molly Brown's got to be kind of kicking themselves. A couple of those were unforced errors and opportunities that they really had to clearly make a play and convert that hold. And now we're going to see some traditionally defensive personnel coming in and playing offense for Molly Brown. Sam Pelletier, Chelsea Tuig, Alesha Dixon, Dina Slattery, Alika Johnston, Sarah Taggart, and Manuela Cardenas.
Cardenas and Dixon, 2 of the newcomers. Slattery, a veteran who's dealt with an array of injuries, but always been one of my favorite players to watch in the women's division. Love her run and gun style game.
She's a great defender, really active on the mark. She's good for a hand block or 2 a game.
And it's Alika Johnston taking the centering pass. Maybe the player that I'm most fascinated by in the mixed division this year. She missed the last couple seasons serving in the Peace Corps. Asked her how many times she played Ultimate while she was overseas. She smiled and said once. Looking for Slattery, and she beats Allie Heath to the spot. Reset for Manuela Cardenas. Now Alesha Dixon. Some of the new faces heavily involved in this point for Molly Brown. And a pick called in the end zone.
Lots of congestion at that front corner. Multiple Molly Brown receivers wanting to get that little inside gut shot from Alesha Dixon.
Coming on 6.
Pick call.
Another pick called just in the hands of Sarah Taggart.
Take a second. Take a second.
Yeah, looks
Good, good.
Tuig shaken up.
Uncontested.
She's all right.
What's the count? Was it a foul? Was it a foul? Okay, it was a foul. Pick. No foul. Okay, just a pick.
Back right corner of your screen.
Coming in on 3. Long 3.
Tuig and Lee.
It's a screen that Al Horford would have been proud of.
Pick called. Stay there. Gonna be on 1.
Body alley! Yes, Caitlin! Body alley, come on! Yes, Caitlin! Yes, Caitlin! Yes, Caitlin! Move the ball!
Not in. Oh, pick called.
Yeah, Blue!
Pick call.
That's a great spot, Let's go, Lee! I believe in you, Blue! Here we go, Blue!
Pretty good end zone defense here from Brute Squad, denying Molly Brown a bunch of looks. Slattery to the ground. Did she rush that lefty forehand or lefty backhand a little bit?
I think she just didn't look it in all the way through.
Intercepted back. Great play by Tuig. Been in the middle of the point. She registers the bookends, but a pick was called. And Molly Brown still hasn't punched it in yet. Good defense by Werfeli to recover. Johnston to Cardenas. What can you say about this Brute Squad defense, Ian?
Pretty relentless in.
Through the small window, Molly Brown converts, but that was really difficult and speaks more about how Boston has come out from an intensity standpoint.
Yeah, that's the kind of goal line stand that you can draw back on in halftime huddles, even huddles in important games later in the season. And we saw Tuig earning the disc back, and Slattery, Cardenas, and Johnston had to work so hard, cycle through, rotate from the front of the stack to the dump position so many times before they got that ever so tiny window for the Callahan winner to finish that play off.
First goal for the former Callahan winner out of the University of Virginia. And Cardenas picks up the assist. I'd say between Johnston, Cardenas, and Fury's Sarah Griffith, take your pick for storyline of the season in the women's division.
I see the argument for Cardenas and Johnston. The thing I'll say is Cardenas has played with Molly Brown for a season, less of a shock,
For
surprise.
a fraction of a season. Last
That's
year,
fair. That's
she was
fair.
playing for Revolution.
That's fair. But the fact that Surge is transferring to unquestionably her home program's biggest rival.
Yep.
It's just making such a big difference in the competitive structure for the West Coast of the women's division.
Leanne Hoffman fires deep. Tremendous grab by Grignon-Thomas. And she'll pick up the assist. It rose a little bit at the very end, but it's hauled in by Emerson. That's the type of play that Grignon-Thomas has brought to this Brute Squad team.
Jorgenson brings it in for the Brute Squad score. That's Brute Squad 7, Molly Brown 3.
We chatted with Ariel Jackson, the coach of Brute Squad, before the game about Grignon-Thomas. And he basically just said, you can put a disc to space, and you know she's going to get it. So Brute Squad's offense, Ian, has not turned the disc over yet. Brute D is 3 for 7 on break chances. Molly Brown still looking for that first opportunity for the D-line to touch the disc.
And you think of how comparatively easy these O holds are looking for Brute Squad and how quickly these offensive points are going, not even giving the Denver offense, regardless of what personnel they're cycling in and out, any chance to catch their breath on the sideline. It's just quick hold and you're right back out there, and you got to grind it out against this tough Boston defense.
Grignon-Thomas, 29, played in Canada for a long time with Iris. Represented her country in several occasions, including at the World Games last year. Important offensive point here for Molly Brown. And it's not looking good. Easily intercepted by Courtney Verhalen. And Brute Squad's D-line offense has been clinical for much of this game. This Boston D-line has more established handlers than most women's teams' O-lines in the division.
Yeah, you look at Angela Zhu, Juliana Werfele.
This disc for Groom, defended by Pitt Caithley.
Great recognition by Lisa, peeling off. Coming over to make that play at the last second.
Stay balanced, Moose. Let's go, Moose. Stay balanced.
Not sure if Molly Brown's going to rally, but let's remember that play, because if Molly Brown can take advantage, that could be a huge turning point. When it looked like it could be 8-3 at the half. Paige Applegate stumbled.
I think she's calling a foul, saying Juliana Werfele knocked her over with her body weight.
No contest on the foul. This will come in on one. Chastain, put it in play.
Sarah Pesh. Low throw, kept alive by Kolopek.
That's two Chad Larson experience alums connecting there.
Yeah, there's a slew of CLX players on this Molly Brown team and making waves in the women's division.
Megan Liu on Fury. Becca Miller on the D-line here for Molly Brown. Lots of great experience.
No contest from Zhu. And Kevin Sealer, who led that CLX program for a long time, also coached the Iowa State women's team and fostered a pretty good pipeline of talent in Ames, Iowa.
Great dump defense from Angela Zhu. Yes, Claire Chastain did get that one upline, but she's denied multiple other upline reset attempts in this point.
Chastain to the end zone for Minor. First point for Claire Chastain. Minor's second goal. And Molly Brown able to hold.
Well, just as we were talking about Zhu's dump defense, Applegate breaks the mark to Chastain, and there's just not enough time for Zhu to get around and re-establish that flick force. And Chastain strikes to the end zone on that diminishing backhand window. Liza Minor finishing her cut to that break cone.
So Brute Squad now 3 of 8 on break chances. Hopefully that umbrella is only needed to block the sun. If Brute Squad's offense stays perfect here, they'll take it to half. Carolyn Matthews, some final words of advice. She played on Molly Brown for 5 years, kind of a part-time coach last year. Actually played a little bit at Nationals. She and her husband, Ryan Farrell, strong player for Johnny Bravo for a long time. A 14-month-old at home. I imagine Lincoln is watching this morning in Denver. Brute Squad's offense makes its first error, and Molly Brown has the door wide open. Well, I shouldn't say that, because Brute Squad's goal line defense has been pretty tough, but that was the D-line by and large.
You hear the sidelines yelling, move the ball. They want Alesha Dixon to look for a reset option.
Becca Miller just a little too far in front of Manuela Cardenas.
Quality of the team going back to pick up the Brute Squad.
And the continuation was there, just not enough touch on it for Cardenas to run onto it.
Tajima for Hoffman. Sinnergrove to Odie. Sinnergrove keeps possession alive. The low release for Hoffman. She was in power position, looking for someone to go. And too far ahead of Sinnergrove. The rhythm was thrown off.
Well, great recognition there by Alika Johnston, peeling off the stack. Sinnergrove was not her defensive assignment. And she's able to get to that space first and knock that disc to the ground before Sinnergrove can make a play.
Cardenas catches the laser beam from Dixon. Breaking the mark, and now Slattery unwinds. Floating it to the end zone. Molly Brown has broken Brute Squad for the first time today. Sam Pelletier hauls it in for Molly Brown.
That's Brute Squad 7, Molly Brown 5.
Well, that's an inspiring point for the Molly Brown defense. They earn the disc after the turnover. It's not just a throwaway. And then they run well-structured offense, setting up a great break side opportunity to the end zone. Slattery reading the wind conditions perfectly, floating that for Pelletier to run onto.
I love the sportsmanship culture. Oh, it's awesome.
That's why we're all, big part of why we're all here.
Yeah.
So Slattery picks up the assist. First break for Molly Brown.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's huge. Interaction right
Brute Squad not going to put its O-line back out there. The primary D-line retakes the field. O'Connell, Werfele, Zoo, Murphy, Groom, Lee, and Wong out there for Boston. And we're chatting with Ariel Jackson. He says, perhaps more so than other teams, Brute Squad has more strict O-line players and D-line players. A lot of times you'll see Fury play players 2 points in a row regardless of situation. But with that said, Brute Squad certainly very willing to put that quote-unquote D-line out there on offense.
And when we were talking with Coach Carolyn Matthews from Molly Brown, they're trying a Fury-esque approach as well, trying to play groups of players 2 points in a row.
Squeezing it through to Zoo. Chastain playing this point on D. And that shot too far ahead of Cassie Wong. So Cammie Groom's perfect throwing half is over.
Zero.
We look at this upline window. Wong had separation. The window was closing, but throw just too far ahead.
Out of the reach of the bidding Schaffner.
Dina Slattery's calling a foul on the throw.
Long arm Caitlin O'Connell is going to contest it.
No. Yeah, so if you said 3, you come in on 4. Okay. Coming on 3. It's on 3.
So many plays were like, just call him down. Ready, Jay, nice, Jay.
Cardenas wanted to pivot into a backhand, and Groom was right there waiting for her. And how about Angela Zhu's defense on Claire Chastain?
Well, she's been making a mark at the club level and college level with her handler defense for years. One of the reasons Brute Squad was able to successfully defend its national title back in 2016 against Riot with her frustrating handler defense on the Riot stellar offensive handling core. And she's just making her mark once again.
Well, what did you get to? You said 7, so it'd be 8. Okay, count reach +1, since there was no call, actually. Stalling 8! Stalling 8!
Zhu launches long. Caitlin Lee is there for Brute Squad. Cardenas went up, got some disc, also some arm, it appeared.
Well, Zhu's tried to throw a bailout too. Caitlin Lee once or twice before in their college days at Dartmouth. Goodness, that's close. Here we go. It's our favorite argument of the weekend, Evan. I don't think that Caitlin Lee stopped rotation. The question is, did Cardenas make contact with the disc or Lee's forearm?
Do you want to come to me? Either one of you can come.
Please, sir, what did you see? Anybody.
They're just going to send it back.
Possession will stay with Brute Squad.
Here we go, Mom. Get
And there's a lot to lose for both teams if the foul call goes the other way. It could be a turnover, or it could be halftime. So I understand both players' insistence on wanting to just keep it as a contested call and send it back.
An array of fakes, including that what looked like a lefty Scuba fake. And it looked like Chastain was the intended target there, easily intercepting the pass from Lee. Schaffner. Cardenas. Miller. Molly Brown on the march. Chelsea Tuig gets the reset for Chastain. And Manuela Cardenas punctuates the point with a spike. The second Molly Brown break in a row.
Molly Brown really riding on the strength of its stars all the way down the field there. Chastain with the recognition in the end zone to come up with the block. I think Lee was looking for Groom to continue that inside cut. I don't think she was looking all the way to Zhu in the end zone. And then it's just run and gun offense, as these handlers love to do. Cardenas, Schaffner getting a touch there. Chastain loves throwing and going in those small spaces. Lots of mind games there going on between her and Angela Zhu on the dump, trying to figure out which angle she's going to attack at to get that reset.
Chastain pays it off. Remember that D by Lisa Pitcaithley on a shot to Cami Groom that would have taken half 8-3.
Squad looks good, squad.
Clutch block, and I don't think that shot to Groom needed to go up either. I think that was one of the few moments where the Brute Squad D-line offense lacked discipline here in this first half.
Brute Squad's team as a whole had 1 turnover in its first 7 points of the half. It's turned it over 8 times in the last 6. 5 of those in the last 3. Alesha Johnson had a good smile on her face. Maybe a contact call or something on the mark. That throw too high for Schwamm, but Hoffman cleans up the trash to keep it alive. Schwamm looking for an outlet. And observers signaling stall. Schwamm may have called fast count.
Hey, we've got this block, Molly. Let's go, Molly. Let's go, Lizzie. Nothing to the cone, Lizzie. I said fast count.
Also, fast count called. Okay. So, do you agree that it was a fast count or no?
No, but
Okay. So we're gonna be coming in and stall.
so I called a fast count. Like,
Check in, Molly. Check in. Here we go.
I guess I never called violation. So
Yeah, you didn't call violation.
All right, so-
That's the issue. So it's gonna be contested stall. We're gonna be coming on
I
8.
got you, Lisa.
Okay. Coming in on 8.
And Lisa.
Stalling 8. Stalling 8.
It's here, baby. Up. No around, Becca.
Reset to Hoffman.
Yeah, Lizzie. Tight, Lizzie, tight. Yeah, Lizzie. No blind, Lisa. No blind, Lizzie.
Well, Brute Squad's gotten a little off kilter, and to Molly Brown's credit, they've ratcheted up the defensive intensity and urgency late in this first half. Pretty good hustle by JoJo Emerson, somersaulting. She lost her hat in the process. But here's Pitcaithley, throwing it deep, floating it to the end zone, and incomplete.
Molly Brown unable to connect with the end zone look. Good start with the Brute Squad.
Trying to get it to Lindgren.
Quality of the team going back to the pickup.
Do you want the mark or would you like to do all this?
Easy money, Brute Squad. Find your flow.
And you saw the slight outside in on that throw
Like you know how. Like you know how.
kind of pushed that disc to the near sideline a little more quickly than Pitcaithley wanted. She wanted that to sit flat on the air for Lindgren to run onto.
Sinnekrupp tried to get to Malinowski, unable to make the clean catch.
Alesha Dixon coming over to pick
Long
up
point
Brown.
here at 7-6 in the first half. Pitcaithley back to Johnston and Dixon. Difficult reset. There's some good spacing downfield, Ian, but no one from Molly Brown was really making a cut out of the stack. And now the very difficult throw and catch made by Pelletier, just like she did in the semifinals of the U.S. Open last year.
Tie number 7.
That's 3 breaks in a row, a 5 turnover point, and Molly Brown finally converts.
Well, great frustrating handler defense there by Jessie Grignon-Thomas. And Johnston, I don't know if she was just running out of patience at the moment of release there.
We have a timeout on 3.
A small window into the end zone.
Where was the window?
I think it was appearing as Lizzie Laurie was vacating that inside break space, but we'd love to ask her about what was going through her head after this game ends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Timeout Brute, right?
Yes.
And how about the confidence that this team has in Alesha Johnston? Tremendous, accomplished player in her own right, having won national championships with Scandal.
Well, here's the last 5 U.S. Open winners and the last 5 national championship winners. Brute Squad in 2016, the only team that has won both the Open and Club Nationals.
But to get back to the discussion about Johnston, you know, it's her first year on this team. She's been away from the elite ultimate scene for multiple years, serving in the Peace Corps and Senegal, and in her first year on the team, still working on getting back into true game shape and form. They're counting on her to pick up the disc after the turnover multiple times and be the field general to march that disc down the field.
It's like, yes, stuff of nightmares.
So from 7-3 Molly Brown has scored 4 in a row when Brute Squad had the disc to take half.
Have fun with it.
On your confidence on that pole for Molly Brown.
Yeah, Chelsea.
Brute Squad's offense, which was perfect for most of this first half, has faltered 3 in a row. Deep shot going up, Malinowski. If it was that easy, why didn't it happen a while ago? Goodness gracious. Gorgeous touch from Schwam. Malinowski with great separation. We're on serve at the half, 8-7.
Great spacing by the Brute Squad offense and great use of the break side. Tajima with the high release backhand. And then Schwam continues down that break sideline. There's really no chance for Dina Slattery to make a play when you can't reestablish the force and push that disc back to the side of the field that you're trying to defend.
So Malinowski gets on the board. And the Schwam bomb to the end zone for Brute Squad makes it 8-7. On serve, Molly Brown will receive to start the second half. And a really interesting first 15 points to dissect. Carolyn Matthews down on the field will help us do just that. Thanks for joining us, Carolyn. Your thoughts on, you were really close to being down 8-3 at the half. Lisa gets that D, and how did things turn around?
Well, we were having some execution errors, which are frankly the best thing to have in this situation. It's not a structural problem. It's just a matter of driving our throws, attacking that disc. And we leveled up on defense, so it was a nice turnaround.
When you guys were regrouping during some of those timeouts, what were the messages to the team to kind of get everyone to refocus and get past those execution errors?
Well, we've been talking a lot about driving our throws, especially going this way instead of popping things up this or kind of leaning back for that flick around. And so we made those adjustments, like really going back to our fundamentals throwing-wise. And then defensively, we kind of had more of a focus on our mark, what we wanted to take away, and really leveled that up. And I think the defense responded really well.
Carolyn, it's a little off topic, but a courageous move by you to wear the Yankees hat going up against the Boston team, considering recent events. Has there been any chatter on the sidelines?
You know, I'm trying to get in their heads. I'm sure they want to get in mine. But I think we have more rings if at last look.
Not this century, but last century you did. Best of luck in the second half. Thanks for joining us.
Guys.
Carolyn Matthews, former player on Molly Brown, helping to lead the team. Joe Durst, who also coaches this squad, was at Masters Worlds this weekend with Johnny Encore. We're on serve at the half. 2 of the top 3 seeds in the tournament, 2 of the top 3 teams in the world right now in the women's division. It's 8-7. Boston leads Denver 8-7. We are at the half on serve. Brute Squad coach Ariel Jackson joins us from the sidelines. Ari, an interesting first half. I imagine mixed feelings from your perspective. It could have been 8-3. Instead, we got ourselves a game.
For sure, yep.
What were your thoughts on the 2 different stages of that first half?
I thought we came out great in the beginning with really high defensive pressure. I think that was pretty clear. And our offense was doing really well. We were moving the disc quickly, and so that looked good. And then I think in the second half, our defense kept holding its own, but our offense tightened up a little bit, and we were moving on the field with our cuts from handlers and cutters in a way that made it hard to move the disc quickly. And so then that led to some high stall turnover situations.
Now that you've got this halftime break, what's the message to the offense to kind of get them back in sync and restore their confidence going into the second half?
Yeah, it's basically the same message I delivered at the timeout there, which is we need to reset our offensive systems, get back to, in our host stack, clearing space is our first priority, and in our vert stack, moving the disc quickly is our first priority. We fell away from both of those, and that's what's hurt us.
We saw Cammie Groom throw a couple goals for breaks early in the game. How has she evolved as a thrower these past couple years, and how much has she worked at it?
She's definitely gotten better as a thrower, and I know she works on it all the time. I think in particular, her backhand break is really top-notch.
I know you guys love rotating matchups on Molly Brown star players, but it looks like Angela Zhu's doing an especially great job frustrating Claire Chastain. Can we expect to see more of that in the second half?
Absolutely.
Ariel, thanks for the time. Best of luck.
Thank you.
8-7 is the score. Brute Squad jumped out to a 7-3 lead. Jesse Grignon-Thomas hauling in the huck and then dishing the goal to JoJo Emerson. But things got a little wobbly for Brute Squad in the second half of that first half.
Yeah, as Coach Jackson was saying, it seemed like the Brute Squad offense just kind of tightened up. They were taking some shots they didn't need to. They weren't making the right space that they needed. And that's the same time that Molly Brown's offense and D-line offense started finding more discipline and patience and attacking at the appropriate spaces. You saw this Molly Brown offense at its most comfortable when they were running and gunning, throwing and going down the field between Chastain, Schaffner, and Cardenas on that critical 70-yard break.
Alesha Dixon in her first U.S. Open with Molly Brown was playing with Philly Amp at the World Championships a couple weeks ago, and from one team that won the bronze medal, knocking on the door, to another. Entering with a mindset, this goal right here, one of two from Pelletier, kind of catching the prayer from Johnston. And then Brute Squad's offense did convert at the end of the half. Alana Schwam to Becky Malinowski to make it 8-7. It's on serve. Molly Brown will receive. By the way, the score from the field next door, Fury 13, Scandal 4. So barring a crazy comeback, it's going to be either Denver or Boston against San Francisco tonight on the Deuce. Seven different goal scorers in the first half for Brute Squad, who leads 8-7. 5 different goal scorers for Molly Brown, Minor, Pelletier, 2 apiece for Denver. Leanne Hoffman scored twice. Cami Groom, a couple assists for the D-line. Amber Sinnercroft, 2 dimes for the Brute Squad offense. We're on serve. Molly Brown's disc, second half, when we return. Well, it was 7-3 before Denver went on a 4-0 run to tie it up. Boston took half 8-7. Ian Toner, I have to ask, how do you see this second half transpiring with these two teams that ultimately finished neck and neck in the first 15 points?
Well, I think Brute Squad showed greater depth, greater reliance on its depth, and greater reliance on its systems and strategic structure. And I think that's going to provide the edge in the second half. Molly Brown, on the other hand, needed to continuously keep its stars on the field, overly rely on them. And even when they did, their stars were turning the disc over in key opportunities to convert holds and convert breaks. So I think Brute Squad has the edge going into the second half from both a depth and a strategic structure standpoint.
There's great handler defense. And the depth on display. Nicole Canning comes up with a block. Cami Groom looking for a third assist. She's got it. The bookends for Canning. Brute Squad breaks 9-7.
And look, that turnover is one of the reasons and one of those instances that's separating Claire Chastain and Molly Brown from earning one of these signature victories. She is more than capable of resetting the disc to Paige Applegate. They have such great chemistry, but she wants to move so quickly to get that run and gun going that she doesn't account for Canning's close defense and just releases that reset casually, allowing Canning to make a play on it. And credit to Canning for seizing that opportunity, but Claire Chastain is capable of resetting that disc and moving the offense more effectively than that.
Another assist for Groom. And how about Nicole Canning, originally from Farmington, Connecticut. Started playing Ultimate in the fall of 2012 to Northeastern University. Played with Boston Siege for a few seasons before joining Brute this year. There's Chastain. She's graded on a higher curve than many of her peers, and she's earned that.
And I empathize with Chastain in the interest of wanting to move the disc quickly. You know, when I was a young handler, that was a criticism that someone like Ryan Farrell very fairly leveled to me as a player. Hey man, You don't need to throw and go at the cost of turning it over.
Dixon's huck floating near the pylon, and it's knocked away. Sophia Hulbert, another Brute Squad rookie, appeared to get there first, but a foul was called.
It looked like a clean block on the disc, but the question is, was there body contact before touching the disc? That's so close. I hate to use a cliche, it just sounds like a bang-bang play.
You're gonna come to the observer?
Yeah, that's fine if you'd like to. That's fine.
Okay, so the observer ruling, it was a foul. You had to go through her to get to the disc.
Foul call is upheld by the observer.
So we're gonna tap it here and then come to the line.
Possession will stay with
Jonathan
Molly Brown.
Monforti
Pick up, yes.
gives his opinion and gives Molly Brown the disc on the goal
You
line.
got this.
Chelsea team to put
I'm with you. That was a super close call. Could have gone either way.
Yes, yes, Jay, that's fine.
So tight. Tight, inside.
Yep.
Around.
It was a difficult throw, though, from Dixon, especially the landing spot so close to the sideline.
Yeah, not the optimal high percentage look that this Molly Brown offense wants to execute to restore confidence right after they've been broken.
Johnson to Cardenas. Active mark from Wong. Slattery over to Dixon. That was a throw with a little too much sizzle.
Molly Brown unable to convert. Disc over to Brute Squad on the turnover. Well done. One back to pick up.
There have been a handful of those in this game. In the first half, the layouts in the end zone, one was off the hands of Bacher. You know, they're catchable discs, but certainly not high percentage grabs. Shelley Cohen's three-quarters field huck sails over the leaping Wong.
Brute Squad turnover in the lead zone. He is Slattery picks up from Molly Brown.
Sophie looking, body. Yes, Tulsa, yes, Tulsa. Come on, Vicky.
Miscommunication on the switch enabled Taggart to be wide open.
We good? Let's tap it when you're ready.
Sophie once. Sophie outside.
Game next door went final. Fury 15-5 over Scandal. So the top seed, San Francisco Fury. Sarah Griffith's first tournament with the Bay Area team will be in the finals tonight against the winner of this one. If Brute Squad hangs on,
Coming in on 4.
it'll be a rematch of last year's national title game, which was decided by 1 in thrilling fashion.
Reset first. Let's make sure they get reset. They were still moving.
Molly Brown Fury would be pretty good too. Remember, they had a great game in the semifinals last year that Molly Brown prevailed, and that was really a marquee win. Maybe the most marquee win that this Molly Brown team has had. To beat Fury at the US Open, to be the last US team standing after Riot had also lost to Medellin's Revolution. Remember, Brute Squad didn't even make the semifinals at the US Open last year. And Molly Brown had that opportunity to win the title, and they were upstaged by the phenomenal females from Medellin.
What's our count?
And Molly Brown certainly benefiting from the services of one of their greatest players, Manuela Cardenas.
Dixon squeezes it through. Tuig back to Dixon. And a foul or a pick in the stack.
No contest, coming in 1.
Dixon from Slattery. What has the Molly Brown quote-unquote D-line done well offensively that the O-line maybe could take a page from?
I think they've been a lot more precise on their resets and handler movement. Understanding when the windows are there to attack that upline space and actually pull the trigger on those upline throws. Whereas I think we saw with that first turnover out of half, Claire Chastain and some of the other O-line handlers are a little too eager to run and gun right off the bat. And when the Brute Squad defenders are playing as tightly as they are in those dump spaces, those are risky propositions to be releasing those throw and go resets without 100% certainty.
See Lindgren and Kolopek. Cardenas, Dixon stays out there. Chastain out on this deep point as well, along with Pitcaithley. Cardenas on Hoffman. Sinecro to Malinowski. Fun matchup, Dixon and Malinowski. Maybe a size advantage for Becky, but Alesha speed and athleticism perhaps on her side. Nice around throw. Hoffman continues. Malinowski holster, still no stall count on her, to Tajima. Nicely done. Great timing between the two handlers, Sinecrope and Tajima. Right as Sinecrope made her change of direction, Tajima had a timely pivot off the fake for the easy turnover free hold.
Well, once they got to the red zone, Malinowski and Tajima just anchoring, attacking upline, and look at the way Tajima sets up that break throw. She takes that fake all the way out, sells that flick fake, and that gets Kalopek's body weight shifting all the way over to the far side so that as soon as Tajima plants back over to that backhand break, Kalopek's not even there, doesn't even have a chance. That's an experienced thrower using her pivots and technique to set up her break throws well.
Claudia Tajima channeling the vibes of Jalen Brown, the Celtics' second-year player who she was sporting his jersey in warm-ups today. As a fellow Jalen fan, I appreciated that. Claudia out of Tufts University, started playing in Western Mass. Part of the U20 Worlds team 8 years ago and 10 years ago when she was coming up. Molly Brown back on O. Applegate over to Chastain. And here's Lori wide open underneath.
Look at how difficult Zoo is making it to reset.
She may have had to go through Applegate. Athletic play by Canning. Or was it a dangerous play? It's really close. After seeing the replay, I'm not sure it's dangerous, even if it may be a foul.
You're saying you didn't have to go through her to get the disc?
Yes.
Okay. So contested foul, observer ruling. I don't think it was a foul. She had the inside position. Okay. So no foul. Okay.
Heck of a play by Nicole Canning.
Nicole Canning with that D from Brute Squad.
She's excelling in that dump defender position. That's the second block this half she's gotten on Applegate.
That's going to work.
What was the Molly Brown defense doing? There are so many defenders going to that space who it seemed like they let up. And Canning was the only one who ran through the three of them to get that disc. There are no whistles here in Ultimate, but you got to play until the final whistle has gone. And Canning just bursts by multiple Molly Brown defenders. There are so many other defenders who had a chance to make a play on that disc.
I think your tone is right on. It was bewildering.
First time out of the second
And
half.
Nicole Canning taking control of this game. That's her second pair of bookends.
You know, this has the feel of a classic Brute Squad Molly Brown semifinal. Brute Squad comes out with a big punch right off the bat, and then Molly Brown starts to chip away, get themselves back in the game. But then Brute Squad reestablishes their superiority in the second half and starts to erase some of those doubts and questions that had crept in as Molly Brown was clawing back into the game.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it just come down to consistency of the little things?
Playing defense until the disc hits the ground.
I'm not sure that's a little thing.
Resetting the disc in a consistent manner. I can't disagree with you.
Timeout taken by Molly Brown. Applegate, Chastain, Laurie, Minor, Pitt Keithley, all back to the line, along with Kalipek and Jesse Schaffner.
In their way, mess the flow.
Let's go, D! Hey, we're first down! Fire it up, fire it up!
Shelly Cohen on the pole for Brute Squad.
Shelly Cohen. She the best puller in the women's game right now? Certainly in the conversation. Sheena Titcomb for Riot, probably up there.
She was a hero of Brute Squad's bracket play games at the World Ultimate Club Championships.
Applegate looking for Pitt Keithley, and Molly Brown converts easily to make it 11-9.
That's Brute Squad 11, Molly Brown 9.
It's the first turnover-free hold from the Molly Brown O-line since the goal that tied the game at 1.
Shows you just how difficult it's been out there for the Molly Brown offense. Brute Squad defense applying so much pressure throughout this game. Something about that point. Molly Brown offense just came out there and found its rhythm. Ran its continuation cuts through key downfield contributors. A nice easy hold for them.
Paige Applegate, top 10 Callahan finisher when she was a senior at Colorado State and playing for Molly Brown since 2013. It's funny, in college, Ian, Applegate was one of those players who didn't want to handle. She said she refused to handle at times, and it's ironic because now she's become one of the anchors of the Molly Brown O-line handling set. A lot of space under for Grignon Thomas. Ton of space for Malinowski, too. Ditto for Hoffman. 3 cuts all about 15 to 20 yards, and then Hoffman throws it away. Overshooting Emerson, unable to keep it alive, and Molly Brown has a chance.
Alesha Dixon going back to pick up for Molly Brown.
Hoffman's bid, unsuccessful. Becca Miller keeps it alive. Nice little shimmy from Manuela Cardenas to get that throw off, and then Slattery unable to keep possession alive on the bid. Does one team have a big advantage over the other in these marathon points, in your opinion?
I think it depends on how many points the personnel on the field have played so far in this game. In the last 2 points, I think it's got a lot to do with how fresh those players are.
Laser beam to Kiera Lindgren. Back to Manuela Cardenas. Molly Brown has converted the break, and they're back within 1. Chelsea Tuig has been a great grinder for this team. Formerly played with Portland Schwab, before that Madison Heist, and before that the mixed division with CLX out of the University of Iowa.
Well, Molly really had to work after that turnover. Great dump defense from the likes of Claudia Tajima, making it really difficult to reset the disc to players like Alika Johnston. But once this offense was able to get the disc moving to the break side in the red zone, they were able to get in the rhythm in that final 10 yards. Not the same goal line stand and stout goal line defense that we were seeing earlier in this game, Evan.
So 11-10. One story we should mention, a sad story for Molly Brown. Hannah Leathers been battling back from a serious knee injury. So excited to return to the field, and then in just unfair circumstances got injured again. And I know you know Hannah, living in the Rocky Mountain area. What's it been like consoling her and seeing her continue to grind with her teammates despite the fact that she can't be on the field?
Well, it's absolutely heartbreaking. She had 2 labral tears in her hips that she had to get surgery for. And those surgeries were staggered. And there was an incredibly long recovery process. She had just weeks before this most recent injury passed all of her clear to play tests and examinations from her physical therapist and other support staff. And in the semifinals of the Pro Elite Challenge, just took a cut at a weird direction, and her knee gave out and suffered another season-ending injury. But her attitude has been one of honesty but determination. She understands that she's been dealt a really unfair hand here, but she's determined to get back out on the field and support her own teammates in the process.
Hoffman keeping that disc alive, going through Miller to do it. Becca Miller, another player who had to miss a season because of an injury, but has returned. Hope Leathers can do the same, and she can get through this next injury with the same vigor and enthusiasm and stay healthy afterwards.
And now it's Johnston's turn to frustrate Tajima.
Great release from Sinnerkrope, breaking the mark of Tuig. And Apparently there's a pick.
We're back here, actually. That's my mistake. That's my fault.
This stall's going to come in pretty high because it was rising on Synchro.
Okay, coming on 6, yeah.
Coming in on 6.
Same throw, different target, same result. Grignon Thomas makes it 12-10.
So tough to be marking a player like Synchro or Tajima in the middle of the field in the red zone. You want to stay flat to take away that inside shot, but the more you do that, the more you expose the around throw. And at the end of the day, that comes down to a strategic adjustment at the team leadership level, where they're going to be dictating, hey, we want our marks to be flatter in this situation. We want them to be more concerned about the around. And the players downfield just have to understand, hey, there may be a chance that we're conceding an inside shot in this setup as opposed to a different play call where we might be conceding more of an around look that I might not have a chance at. But those are the calculations and adjustments that the leadership has to make before they call their D-line out onto the field.
Amber Synchro enjoying herself throughout the weekend here in Minnesota. Now 17 assists. And in this game, I think it's a telling statty, and we've been close. Obviously, Brute jumped out 7-3, and then Molly scored 4 in a row. Of the 22 points we've played so far, 9 have been turnover-free holds. Of those 9 points, 7 were from the Boston O-line. Is that a pick or a foul? Or both?
I couldn't see quite how close Caitlin Lee was to Lizzie Laurie when she was chasing her around Applegate.
No, that's a foul.
Yeah, I think she's much further than 10 feet.
Now tight, now tight, now tight. Yes, Nicole. Yes,
Well-timed poach from Chelsea Murphy. This would be a big break. That would get Brute Squad a 3-goal lead within 2 of the title game. Nice bid by Murphy to keep possession alive. And now shooting it deep, intended for Canning. She did it again. Nicole Canning has been the breakout star for Boston Brute Squad at the U.S. Open.
Well, when we were talking on the field before this game with Coach Ariel Jackson, he singled out Canning's performance this weekend as someone who may not be grabbing all the headlines, but has been elevating her performance throughout the weekend for this team. And we've seen her taking the top handler matchups this entire game, frustrating Paige Applegate, earning blocks, and here she is converting breaks, catching goals in the end zone. An MVP performance from her in this semifinal.
Her 3rd goal, all of which were for breaks. The break to make it 9-7, the break to make it 11-8, and here to make it 13-10.
Just Canning's first year on Boston Brute Squad.
Brute Squad now with 6 breaks in the game and 12 chances. Molly Brown just hasn't had the same number of opportunities because Boston's O-line has been so steady, except for that stretch in the late portion of the first half when bizarrely they fell apart. I think that had a lot to do with Molly Brown's defensive intensity ratcheting up. Looking for Pitcaithley, not enough float.
And I think Pitcatley had enough separation. Johnston probably wants this release back. And now Brute Squad marching up with yet another break opportunity.
Allie Heath to a stumbling target. Vicky Negus. Douglas over to Groom. O'Connell had steps on Slattery deep. The throw was high for the initial target, and then Willa Cardenas plays free safety to stomp on that floating disc. Oh, tough grab made there by Tuig. Tuig has meant a ton to this Molly Brown effort today. There's Tulsa Douglas in the end zone for Brute Squad. She'll take the timeout to settle things down. Tulsa Douglas, you get the sense, just scratching the surface of her abilities. A finalist for the Donovan Award. U24 USA gold medalist in Australia this past January. Was wondering and got Ariel Jackson's opinion what Douglas's future in this sport is going to be, what she's going to look like, whether it's a center handler or a cutter, and said a lot of it will depend on, you know, who her personnel is around her, but I think she's capable of doing pretty much anything. Winner of this game gets Fury in the final tonight.
And coming into this game, I think both Fury and Brute Squad are motivated by their subpar performances at the World Ultimate Club Championships. I think both of those teams thought that they should have been the world champion. And Brute Squad surprised Fury in the quarterfinals to earn a spot in the semifinals. So this is a grudge match on multiple levels. It's Brute trying to get revenge from last year's national championship game, and it's Fury trying to exact revenge from the World Championship quarterfinal.
Both in the women's division and in the mixed division, last year's USAU national champions lost in the quarters, finishing in a tie for 5th. Talking about Mixtape and Fury at the recent World Ultimate Club Championships. Werfele has a smiling Alesha Johnston making a call.
Fast count was the call? Okay. Okay, I do not think it was a fast count. Okay. Okay, so what was you?
I said 6.
Okay, so we're gonna be coming in on 7. Okay, coming in on 7.
Cami Groom. Another tough grab made by Douglas.
And again, you saw Alesha Johnston peeling off the stack so close to earning that block.
Can Molly Brown punch this in and then put the pressure back on Boston's O-line? Pitcatley. She's going to take the shot looking for Slattery. Dina rips it away for Molly Brown. Casual, cool, calm, and collected. Slattery delivers for Denver.
Well, that's a hard-earned hold for Molly Brown. Some traditional D-line players crossing over, fighting through several turnovers to get the disc back. And I think this was just a miscue on Douglas's part, unable to reset cleanly. And you know Lisa Pitt-Caithley's going to pull the trigger almost any time she's got that opportunity in front of her.
I'm not sure if you fault Sophia Hulbert for the defense there. I mean, yeah, you want to be closer, but Dina Slattery is a player that you'd prefer to push out rather than get the disc on an under and let her take that shot.
And it's another one of those calculated strategic decisions that players in leadership are making. Hey, we want to be forcing receiver X or all of these receivers out, or we want to make this person become a receiver and push them to that secondary option. I think that's a strategic decision that leadership and individual players are making.
Tajima to Grignon-Thomas. Another big chunk for Hoffman. Schwam went deep. Hoffman swung it instead. Out of the reach of Malinowski and Hoffman, and Molly Brown has the disc.
I gotta say, that's an unforced turnover. I'm not crediting that one to any defensive pressure. That's just purely a miss on the parts of Sinekrop and Malinowski.
Cardenas to Slattery. There was contact. Cardenas stumbling with her defender. Grignon-Thomas.
Let's see what the call is. Foul. Offensive foul call? Was it contested? Is it contested or uncontested? Uncontested. Offensive foul. Offensive foul. So what was your count? Okay. Coming in 4.
To Chastain. And Cardenas. Up the line. Schwam came with the poach. Did Chastain already have the disc?
Wait, what's your... Okay. Contested or uncontested? Uncontested!
No contest on the foul. Possession